You guys remember the story we did towards the end of May from Senatobia, Mississippi, where the lady was forcibly removed from her vehicle because it was parked in a Walmart handicap spot and she ended up spending Mother's Day in jail as a result? Well, we have an update to that case. It's a little bit of a surprise, but the chief of police in Senatobia took a big swing and miss at me, and we're going to air all the laundry, baby. So grab your popcorn. It's going to be fun. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Southern Draw Law. My name is James White, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former police officer. I had no intentions of making this video. I really didn't. But here we are. Before we get too far ahead, let's just go ahead and recap what the situation was. It was Mother's Day in Senatobia, Mississippi. There's a lady named Brashari Faulkner who was driving a vehicle, and that vehicle legally displayed her grandmother's handicap placard right on the rearview mirror. If you haven't seen my original video on it, it has almost 650,000 views. I'll link it in the description, but here's the relevant portion.
Hey, I was just checking the placard. I'm seeing whose name it was in and if you were the owner of the placard.
My grandmother, she went in the store.
She went in the store?
Yes, ma'am. I had dropped off. She went in the store, but I can move. I can move.
How'd you drop her off?
I just moved.
Yep. Okay. I need you to see your ID, please. I need your ID, please.
What did I do?
Because you're parking in a handicap and you're not allowed to park here.
Yes, ma'am, but I just said I was going to move. My grandmother, she's handicapped. She's in the store.
Did she come out of this vehicle?
I dropped her off at the other end.
Did she come out of this vehicle?
I dropped her off
Did
at
she
the other
come out of
end.
this vehicle?
Can
I get your ID, please?
I haven't done nothing, ma'am.
No, you're parking into a handicap a vehicle or a parking spot using someone else's.
My grandmother is handicapped. I dropped her off in the store.
How did you get up here with all this stuff in here?
I just moved.
Okay, can I get your ID, please?
I haven't done anything.
You're violating handicap parking violation. Can I see your ID, please?
I haven't done anything.
You have, and I'm requesting your ID, and if I don't get it, I will arrest you. It's just simple. And then your children are not properly in their buckled in their seat.
You gotta unbuckle them. You just sit up here find a reason to f with me.
She doesn't unbuckle them.
I unbuckled them. I was getting ready to get out the damn car.
And you just now parked. I came up right behind you as soon as you parked. You did not turn around and unbuckle them.
Yes, I did. You weren't in here. I'm saying,
Where's your lying to me? You're refusing to identify yourself. Your children
I want a supervisor or something because you feeling real hostile and shit. I need you to get a supervisor because you sitting up here with me for no motherfucking reason.
There's no need.
I need a supervisor because you mess with me for no reason, and I told you I will move. I told you I will move.
No, it just not that.
Yeah, you mess with me for no reason. I got my kids in here. I do not feel safe with you doing this.
And you're escalating this. You're doing this.
Come on, man. Come on. Do what you gotta do.
Step out here, please. Step out of here.
You can get somebody else here.
Get out of the vehicle now before I make you get out of here. Do you want to do this in front of your children or not?
You said you answered my idea. You just gave me an idea, bro.
Walmart aisle 4. Get out of the vehicle now or I will make you get out.
Sorry. Step out. Oh my God. Why are you grabbing me? Why are you grabbing me?
I have one of this.
Have you considered going solar in Tennessee but afraid of the huge price tag attached? Most people...
Get out of the vehicle now.
Get out.
Get out.
Hands on me. And if you
Get to the back of the vehicle now.
No, she just grabbed me. She just grabbed me.
Because you're refusing to walk with me. You're okay. Now.
So as you can see here, the officer does nothing except observe the vehicle for some unknown period of time prior to Faulkner parking in the handicap spot. She observes Faulkner move to the handicap spot, and without initiating a traffic stop, using any sort of lights or siren, and without inspecting the placard that was hanging legally in the windshield, she approached the vehicle and started questioning Faulkner about who the placard belongs to. Now, to be clear, she was completely within her privilege or authority to do that because she has the ability and authority to approach anybody she wants and have a consensual encounter. What she needs to understand, though, as a police officer, is that it is a consensual encounter until you build reasonable suspicion for a Terry detention. Now, obviously, this is exactly how you would want a proper investigation into the owner of the placard to go. We would want it to look like this, but the issue arose when her response to Faulkner's answers looked more like a contempt to cop situation than it did an actual bona fide investigation. When Faulkner told her that the placard actually belonged to her grandmother and told her that her grandmother was inside the store, she then offered to move the vehicle, and the officer escalated and started demanding ID. And that's really where this thing went off the rails. Again, if you haven't seen the original video on it, go back and watch it because I go through the entire statutory sort of structure for what was allowed and what was not legally allowed. And I explain why Faulkner would have been privileged to use the spot while waiting for her grandmother, whether or not she had originally dropped her off at the other end of the store. And that is because the statute provided that she was allowed to use the space either directly before or directly after transporting the proper party that the placard was registered to. Now, I made my video, and you very likely watched it if you're watching this, and in that video, I reported what the local news reported when they showed Grandma eventually hobble her way out to the car. Now, I want to be clear about this. I got the facts of this case wrong. I own it 100%. Faulkner lied about the usage of her grandmother's placard and lied about dropping her off at the store. After the video was posted, I wrote a follow-up blog on Substack, and I said that I suspected that Faulkner was lying, but it was confirmed by video surveillance that Senatobia police posted to their Facebook page, and it was additionally confirmed by a video that Lackluster posted after my video, proving definitively that Faulkner's grandmother did in fact arrive after the altercation with the police. And it was shown on camera that she actually showed up in a separate vehicle and was never inside the Walmart store, at least not during this interaction. My guess is that Faulkner borrowed the placard, intended to use it improperly, and because she was on the phone with a friend or family member at the time that she was arrested, that person probably called grandmother and said, hey, you probably need to get down here because all of this is going on over this placard. So I was wrong. I own it. But being wrong about the facts does not make me wrong about the law, which I'll explain a little bit more in detail. But here's where it gets really juicy. After the video, one of my subscribers wrote the chief a bit of a nastygram and mentioned my video. I'm not going to reveal the identity of my subscriber because I care about their privacy. And that reminds me that I need to tell you guys about the sponsor of today's video, Incogni. Now, it's obvious that you don't want things like your credit card number or your bank account number or your social security number out there for the world to see. But data brokers aren't just interested in the obvious stuff. And there's way more of your information out there than you even realize. By compiling your regular data, even things you've never considered, like your age and your ethnic background, your religion, your political affiliation, or even the city and state where you live, a data broker can use that information to package your potential consumership like a warm lead to any company looking to place products in front of people just like you. Now, the good news is that they do have to remove your information once you've made a request for removal. But the bad news is you actually have to make the requests, all of them, individually. Now, that sounds overwhelming, and it would be if it weren't for Incogni. But they have made the process so simple that anyone can do it. First, sign up for an account. Then, just give Incogni permission to contact the data brokers on your behalf to get all your information removed from their databases. And then, all you have to do is get back to doing whatever it was you were doing before I ruined your day by alerting you to this devastating problem that you didn't know existed. And while you're living your life, Incogni cleans up the mess. They'll even send you an alert to let you know it's done. And the best news of all is that Incogni has a special offer for any of my viewers who want to take advantage of their incredible service. All you have to do is use the code SDL for 60% off an annual Incogni plan. Now, back to the video. Now, I sincerely mean this. I do not ever want any of the people who watch my videos to send emails on my behalf or use my platform as a way to antagonize someone in government. I have a platform. I get to say exactly what I believe every single day. I don't want or need anyone else to add to my words or to put words in my mouth or to say anything that makes it seem like it's an extension of what I said. And I'm not saying that's what happened here. I just want to make that clear. So I'm going to read you the email that was written by my subscriber, and I'm going to read you Chief Richard Chandler's response to that email. I saw a video on Southern Draw Law on YouTube of one of your inept female Leos violating a woman's rights on Mother's Day. I'm wondering how you justify this kind of behavior on a woman waiting with her small children for her elderly grandmother who was in legal possession of a handicap placard. The lawsuit on this one is going to be good. So hopefully this coward officer will be denied qualified immunity and pay out of her pocket so your constituents aren't left holding the bag. I'm going to contribute to the GoFundMe so this lady gets a good attorney. By the way, this is really going viral, and James White does a really good breakdown here. So in conclusion, your department is screwed. Bah ha 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 ha. What a bunch of tools, my subscriber. Now, this is what the chief said in response. Chief said, I'm curious though, are you asking me about this based solely on the video from the internet hack and clickbaiter on YouTube, or have you actually gone to our Facebook page to see for yourself so that you can have an informed opinion based on your own findings? Senatobia has been very transparent in releasing all of the information regarding this incident. If you haven't done your own research, I would suggest you do. Anyone can cherry pick facts from an incident and omit facts that don't fit the narrative and will get them clicks. I will admit, he is very slick in his presentation. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it. This is why we have a court of law, so that all the facts can be presented to impartial peers to make an objective decision. However, if you wish to blindly follow any self-proclaimed expert on the internet, feel free. We will stand firm in applying the laws and having them decided by those who are impartial with nothing to gain from followers and half-truths. Tell James we said hi, and to tell the whole story next time while providing links so YouTube sponges like yourself can get the whole story. Well, first of all, Chief, I never claimed to be an expert. I would never claim to be an expert, but I also didn't report any half-truths. I reported the information I had at the time, and that's why I'm making this video. So you're going to get what you want, but be careful what you wish for because you might just get it all. Now, I have basically three options. I can A, ignore it and do nothing. I can B, respond in kind, or C, I can respond with kindness and grace. Now, real quick, pause the video, timestamp it, let me know what y'all think I did. So look, I'm a human being. I wanted very much to be ugly, but this is the question that I asked myself. What does it say about me if the first thing I do is respond in an ugly way? I mean, either I am true to my stated mission or I'm not. And I have said, and I genuinely feel this way, that all I actually hope to gain by making this content is your trust and to be taken seriously as a reliable source of educational content. And more than anything else, I want to make a difference in the way police officers conduct themselves. If I do nothing, I don't get an opportunity to make a difference. Plus, I got some things wrong that I needed to set the record straight on after I watched Lackluster's video. And if without giving him an opportunity to have a dialogue, if the first thing I do is respond back in an ugly way, then I probably am an internet hack that only has an interest in chaos, and I am the exact thing he said I was, which is somebody who only tells half-truths that fit my narrative. Well, I don't have a narrative. I only want to tell the truth, objectively. So, I thought about it. I sat on it, and I remembered that dark little corner of my white trash trailer park heart that reminded me of one of my favorite movies, and that's Roadhouse. And the main character in Roadhouse, James Dalton, had a particular philosophy about being nice to people. His philosophy was, be nice, until it's time not to be nice. Well, it was time to be nice. And then the more I thought about it, I began to hear the voice of the sweet, sweet siren, Naomi Judd. And she was singing in my ears. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? Yeah, I do. I thought it was time. So here's what I did. I decided to reach out to Chief Chandler. Title of my email was Greetings from Southern Draw Law. Chief Chandler, my name is James White. I'm the creator of the YouTube channel Southern Draw Law, a licensed attorney, former prosecuting attorney, and former police officer of 10 years experience prior to law school. Additionally, I am a post-certified firearms instructor, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Survival Tactics Level 2 Defensive Tactics instructor, and teach courses on constitutional law and use of force. I said all that to say that I am in fact not a hack, nor am I a YouTube clickbaiter. And I said that so that I can let you know that in no way, I got auto-corrected and used the wrong version of no, take your statements in response to the nasty email sent to you as personally offensive, nor do I hold you responsible for responding to what I'm certain has become constant negativity in the wake of the Walmart incident. I do not hold you responsible for what you said about me to someone else because you don't know me, have no basis for the statement, and I'm certain you would never say that to me unless you felt cornered and attacked unjustifiably. Now, I want to be clear about this. You can get nowhere with people if all you do is just act like a jerk. Okay, so it would not do me any good. It would not make any headway whatsoever for me to immediately become defensive about what he said about me. The only way was grace. Okay, and I intended to build a bridge here, just like Naomi told me. So now that I have that out of the way, I'd like to share a couple things with you in hopes that it offers some utility and, if you desire, provides a conduit to a friendly dialogue that you might find useful. For starters, I'd like to apologize to you for the nasty email this person sent to you, mentioning my video. I've never had a conversation with that person and would never direct someone to send a harassing communication on my behalf. My videos get millions of views monthly. And if you can imagine how many useless emails you see on the City of Senatobia server and double it, you'll have an idea of how many I get on a weekly basis now that I create content. I want you to know that I am not the type of person, despite how I'm sure you received my video, to be ugly for sport, to create chaos unnecessarily, or to be disingenuous in my legal analysis. I am honest and genuine, and I sincerely hope I never hear the City of Senatobia police involved in another controversy as long as I live. I'm not a crazy leftist. I am not alt-right. I'm not anti-police, and I genuinely believe we need good, honest police officers doing the job and protecting the public. And I'm hopeful we can have a dialogue that ultimately leads to both of us better understanding the other person's position. I do plan to do a follow-up video regarding the new information that Lackluster shared and that I verified for myself by going to your Facebook page. That information includes the revelation that Miss Faulkner was in fact lying about dropping her grandmother off, and that your officer's hunch was correct. I will do the video because I'm an honest person who believes in being accountable for what you say and do, and to be loyal to objective truth and take seriously the responsibility of my platform. Now, remember this phrase because it's going to be important later, all the way down to responsibility of my platform. But I don't want you to think that being wrong about the facts means I was wrong about the law. And that's where you still have an issue that you are going to have no choice but to contend with. For starters, before I go too far into the body of my email, I say, as I'm no doubt on word 1000 of an essay I didn't plan to write today, I want to share a link with you to a blog I wrote as a companion post to the video I made on this incident, so you can understand that my only goal with my channel is to educate my audience honestly and legally. I made this blog post last Friday before I received this email or had any idea the chief of police in Senatobia, Mississippi knew I existed. I've only been doing YouTube for 15 months. I sometimes forget that millions of people have viewed my content, and I'm no longer anonymous. Here's the link to my blog post. I'd like to invite you to pause here and read it before you read the rest of my email. All right, now that we have that out of the way, I wanted to offer this to you so you understand legally what the issues you're facing are. Faulkner was lying, but at the time of the seizure, your officer lacked reasonable articulable suspicion that she had violated the law. That is because the law allows the use of the handicap spot both directly before and after transport of the disabled. And there was no way for your officer to know by looking at Faulkner that she was not herself the handicapped person. The courts will hold your officer responsible for what she knew at the time she forcibly seized Ms. Faulkner. What she later learned about the lie will have no bearing on the analysis. This means that your officer was operating on a hunch that turned out to be correct, but still a hunch. The case law says that non-particularized hunches are not sufficient for a seizure under Terry. Your officer had suspicion, and it was articulable, but it wasn't reasonable. All three must be present for a seizure under Terry. The only thing she saw was a vehicle circle the lot and park in a handicap spot with a properly displayed placard, a placard that your officer did not inspect prior to attempting to take enforcement action. The reason that matters is that, essentially, the officer's interaction with Ms. Faulkner in the absence of a lawful detention is considered consensual. This means that your officer could not demand anything of Faulkner. Faulkner was free to end the encounter at any time. She could ask, but she could not demand. She did not conduct a legal traffic stop, no lights, no siren. She startled Faulkner when she tapped on the window. So she had no right to order Faulkner out of the car for being uncooperative. People have a Fifth Amendment right not to cooperate with police. They don't have to answer questions, nor do they have to provide ID where they are not subject to a lawful traffic stop or being lawfully detained. Despite the position you guys have taken on your Facebook page, this was not a lawful detention, nor was it a traffic stop. Now, if you have honest lawyers, well versed in the law at your disposal, they will verify what I'm saying. I would not be surprised if all criminal charges are ultimately dismissed if they are still pending. But that, again, depends on the quality of the lawyers working at the prosecuting attorney's office. So, because of the circumstances, I think the city of Senatobia is ultimately going to be liable to Ms. Faulkner should she sue for First Amendment retaliation and Fourth Amendment false arrest. I doubt your officer will lose qualified immunity because, in my opinion, the law is convoluted on handicap parking being a misdemeanor. It commingles a bunch of regulatory stuff, and it would probably not be clearly established for the purposes of stripping qualified immunity. But we must remember that police officers are always saddled with the responsibility of being reasonable. It is not reasonable to allow your ego to escalate a parking ticket into an arrest, especially when you didn't do a thorough enough of an investigation to even inspect the placard and establish probable cause. If a suit is filed and during deposition and discovery, the lawyer is smart enough to FOIA the records to determine, and I'm nearly certain this is the case, that exactly 0 people have ever been arrested in Senatobia, Mississippi for a handicap violation, it's going to be a problem. I do not believe that ultimately the force used was excessive, though it would have been had Faulkner not been smart enough to realize how much a 5-second ride on the taser sucks. I've taken the darts myself, and I know firsthand. Had your officer tasered her for not getting out of the car, you'd have an even more serious problem on your hands because 1, MEMS does not apply here because it was not a traffic stop, and 2, MEMS is supposed to be anchored to officer safety, not to allow an exit order because the person is giving the officer pushback. Pushback is protected under the First Amendment as free speech, which is why you have a First Amendment retaliation problem. If you were my client, and I really meant this when I said it would be my sincere advice that you reach out to the family, apologize, and try your best to write them a $10,000 check to see if you can keep from being sued. I know you think you're righteous here because she lied, but the law will not care about that. I promise you. Now that I have all the negative out of the way, I have an offer I'd like to extend. I'd love to talk to you about this if you're the type of person who cares more about getting it right than being right, is what I meant to say next. And I really mean this sincerely. You will never be right here, because your officer made a mistake and misunderstood her legal authority. The only thing you can ultimately do is get it right. I do not sue police departments in my current practice, so it is just nonsensical to make an enemy of me. I use YouTube to talk about the law and law enforcement because I love the law, and I have a romanticized view of the way policing is supposed to be. Am I right? I hope so. But if I'm wrong, I will stand on my shield and admit it, which is why I'm going to make the correction video and say that Faulkner was lying. And this is what I will do if you're interested. Let's have a Zoom-style, non-adversarial conversation. I can either record the interview or not. It's up to you. If I record it, I will provide you an unedited copy so you have the same thing I have, and we know we can trust each other not to weaponize it. I have zero interest, and I really mean zero, in a game of gotcha or to try and hem you up. I have no reason to do anything other than help you as much as I can. Our world is better with smarter, more level-headed, reasonable, and constitutionally intentional police officers on the streets. If you come away from our meeting with a positive impression of me, I will personally come to Senatobia at my own expense and train every police officer on your department on how to be constitutionally intentional. I'll even do the work to submit it to post for in-service. Let me know if you're interested, and I'll make myself available to do it. And the next video I do on Senatobia will be one featuring a chief and a department of officers who care about getting it right. Stay safe, and thank you for reading. James. I mean every word that I wrote in that email. As I've said many times here before, I'm nothing if I'm not authentic, and I was willing to travel the 8 hours to Senatobia, stay there for however long it took to organize the class, and pay for my own travel expenses and meals. I figure, hey, I made money on this video. In fact, this is something that YouTubers would never do, but here's a screenshot of exactly how much money I've made on this video to date. $3,700 for 641,000 views through yesterday. I would trade every single penny of that money and every penny that I would make on any video I've ever done in order to make sure that this never happens again. So it's totally worth the trade as far as I'm concerned. I sent this email on May 27th. Now, I immediately got an auto reply that the chief was out of the country until May 28th. And since then, crickets. Nothing until yesterday, when I got an email out of the blue from none other than Chief Richard Chandler. Now, go ahead, comment, timestamp. Do we think that Chief Chandler wanted to email me so he could take me up on my offer? Here's what he wrote in response out of the blue 3 weeks later. So the subject line was basically as much of this as he could fit. Remember, I told you to pay attention to that. He's highlighted actually in the email. I do plan to do a follow-up video, and it goes all the way down to grandmother, and that doesn't finish it, right? Because it's too much for the title. James, please send me the link to the follow-up video referenced in your email when you can. And then he highlights this paragraph. Okay, but he stops right here where it says the responsibility of my platform. Remember, I told you I wanted you to pay attention to that. Now, I've got a rule. I learned it in law school. It's called the 72-hour rule. And here's the way it works. You write down what you want to say, and then you sit on it for 72 hours. If you still feel the same, you send it. If you don't feel the same, you edit it until it reflects how you feel, and then you sit on it for another 72 hours. So I wrote Chief another long, thoughtful email. It offered more dialogue, more reasoning. It extended even more grace. I sat with it. I still felt like it was the right message, and then I didn't send it. Why? Well, I read his email again and again, and then I talked to people that I trust about it. And together, brainstorming, I realized something. He was almost demanding a correction from me. Of all the things I said to him in the email, explaining why the facts do not change his department's legal liability, this is what he wanted, a link to a correction video? Well, here it is. I was wrong. Faulkner lied. And it still doesn't fucking matter. The law is the law. The Constitution is the Constitution. I've said it a dozen times on this channel. People will show you who they are, and it is your job to believe them. Now, I've shown Chief Chandler who I am. I showed him what I stand for, and in return, he's shown me who he is. So, me sending emails full of niceties now? Pointless. It won't change a single thing. There's no indication, none, that this chief is interested in anything that looks like accountability, dialogue, or real leadership. And I'm done wasting energy on someone who's already made up their mind. In closing, Chief, you got your correction. I sincerely hope it was everything you thought it would be and more. This is not about revenge or drama or retaliation. This is about the public understanding exactly how some police leadership handles criticism, even when it's delivered with grace. How these small-minded, petty, ego-driven leaders are the reason their officers get tunnel vision and respond in a retaliatory way simply because people are exercising their rights. It always starts at the top. We don't even have to talk about the fact that Senatobia is basically a suburb of Memphis, one of the most violent, crime-ridden cities in America. And they damn sure have more shit to be worried about than who is improperly occupying Walmart's handicap parking spots. All you have to do is scroll the very Facebook page they rely on for the strength of their argument to see all of the garbage going on in Senatobia. And this is what you're doing in patrol? Look, everybody has choices to make in life, and consequences flow from those choices. We all know that, right? I mean, hell, how many videos have we seen where cops are making horrible choices about the future of their career and simultaneously gaslighting the victim of those choices into believing that it was their choices that led here, right? I had a choice to make. I decided to help. I tried to open dialogue. I tried to build a bridge. And in return, I got silence and pettiness and ultimately an email asking for a PR favor. So no, I have better things to do with my time. But I am going to send this message to you. It's just that you're going to hear it at the same time that everybody else does. Because out of the two of us, I'm not the one afraid to acknowledge the truth. Now, I will have to admit that I was a little confused by your message because you're email referenced only part of an entire paragraph that I wrote to you, and you conveniently left out the most important section at the end where I said, but I don't want you to think that being wrong about the facts means I was wrong about the law. And that's where you still have an issue that you're going to have no choice but to contend with. See, I sent you a detailed, respectful, open-hearted email on May 27th following your remarks about me to one of my viewers. I took no offense despite your unnecessary tone and your childishness, and I responded with professionalism and a genuine willingness to engage in dialogue. I even offered for free to come and train and give you an opportunity to shift the narrative in a positive, constructive direction. I held off intentionally on producing an update video because I wanted to see whether or not you were going to respond to the email, whether you'd take the opportunity. And the silence in response was telling, but your sort of out of the blue, out of nowhere response 3 weeks later demanding a correction said it all. You highlighted a selective quote in my email and then used that to send a message that seems to demand that I fix me. And that suggests that you're only interested in the part of the story that supports your officer's instincts, while overlooking the constitutional guardrails that still governed her conduct. In other words, instead of the law, what you're advocating for is feelings enforcement. It's clear that all you care about is that you think that Faulkner was morally wrong to occupy the spot. Now, we probably don't disagree on that. I would never do this. But what is undeniable is that the job of your officers is not to enforce your worldview or their worldview or subjective feelings on other people. It's to enforce the law. It's the only thing that's fair. It's to honor their oath and operate within the boundaries of the Constitution and the law of Mississippi. A hunch that turns out to be correct is still a hunch. The Fourth Amendment doesn't care whether a guess was accurate. In hindsight, it cares whether the government acted on specific, articulable, and reasonable facts at the moment it deprives someone of their liberty. That standard exists for a reason. Our country was basically founded to prevent situations like the one we're discussing. And the Fourth Amendment itself was designed entirely in response to that sort of conduct. The Fourth Amendment was not created in a vacuum. It was a direct response to the British use of general warrants. These were blank check type permissions that allowed agents of the Crown to stop, search, and seize anyone at any time for any reason. They were routinely justified by vague suspicion, like the predicate for this situation. They were tools of political control and public intimidation, and they were the spark that ignited the revolution. And your support of that sort of conduct is a spark that could ignite another revolution. Our founders didn't just reject this practice, they wrote a goddamn constitutional amendment to explicitly prohibit it. The core requirement of particularity was meant to end arbitrary enforcement and protect the people from governmental intrusion based on mere assumptions. That's the constitutional backdrop for Terry versus Ohio. And it's the entire doctrine of reasonable suspicion. When officers operate based on gut feelings, even where those instincts turn out to be correct, they are engaging in the same kind of conduct the Fourth Amendment was meant to outlaw. Now, I know from all the years that you've spent in law enforcement that you've heard the term TC equals PC. That is, turd car equals probable cause. It's the idea that if a car looks like the driver's riding dirty, that the driver must be hiding something. They're dealing dope, or they have warrants, or they don't have insurance, or they don't have a driver's license. That is a hunch dressed up as pattern recognition. But still, stopping that turd car without legally justifiable suspicion violates the Constitution, regardless of what's found after the fact. If you find 20 pounds of cocaine, but you didn't have a good reason for the stop, the cocaine's going to get suppressed. Your officer did the same thing here. It's really no different fundamentally than seeing a black guy and saying, oh, I bet he's got some dope on him. Or seeing a Hispanic person being like, I bet they're here illegally. You might be right about the facts, but you'll still be wrong about the law if that's the only basis for the stop. And I'll be candid, from a legal perspective, your reply was stupid. In situations like this, I would typically advise a client not to respond at all. But by engaging selectively and only when it might benefit your department's image, you've missed a real opportunity to turn this moment into a model of transparency and leadership. And honestly, I'm a little surprised that you emailed me highlighting enough of my email to prove that you both read it and received it while ignoring most of what I previously said and simultaneously asking me for some sort of evidence that I've corrected the record. when the facts that I got wrong do not ultimately change the legal conclusions that were drawn in my original analysis. So I made you a few different offers in my email: an offer to have constructive dialogue, an offer to train your officers for free, and an offer to allow you to write the script for what would be the next video I made about Senatobia. And by ignoring the first two, you actually managed to do the worst of those things, and that is that you wrote the script ultimately for this video. So Chief Chandler, you had your chance, you blew it. You've shown that you're not just not cut out for leadership in Senatobia, you're not cut out for leadership at any police department. And if the people of Senatobia ever want to see a positive change, it's going to have to start at the top. The response that you originally gave to my subscriber did not warrant my attention or my kindness. The fact that you couldn't control your emotions long enough to just walk away from the computer instead of casting dispersions at someone you've never met, now that's one thing. But given the opportunity that I offered you, you chose to ignore all of that. And you ultimately abandoned a real chance to show good faith, and for the first time ever, to partner with someone who was a critic, but was offering you a platform and an opportunity to show your department in a good light. And the fact that you couldn't get over your emotions long enough to see the opportunity there shows that you're a petulant child. That's not leadership on your part. That's a chicken shit nugget dipped in insecurity. Now, I do want to say to the officers in Senatobia who unfortunately are following your, we'll say, lead, just for lack of a better term. I know that it is nice when your chief of police supports you as a police officer and is willing to go back to back with you when the shit hits the fan. But I would suggest to you that you should consider that the type of support you needed in a chief was actual leadership, someone who will look you in the eye and say, I'm the reason that you were not properly trained on this issue, and we were both wrong because of what I didn't do and my failures as a leader. And I'm committed to both of us fixing it together, and I'm going to give us all an opportunity to work forward. Instead, you got the kind of support that's ultimately going to ensure that he's standing right beside you as a co-defendant in a lawsuit or filling out applications at the unemployment office, or both. On a final note, if anyone watching this video is connected to the Faulkner family, now that it's clear that Senatobia has no interest in doing the right thing, please reach out to me. Send me an email if you're interested, and I'll do whatever I can to try to pair you with a civil rights attorney who will look at your case. And maybe that will be the thing that becomes the catalyst for some change in Senatobia. I just thought this was a good opportunity to sort of let you guys know what was going on with this case. Nothing significant has changed. There hasn't been a lawsuit filed or anything as far as I know. There certainly isn't going to be any change as long as Richard Chandler is the chief of police there. But ultimately, I'll probably end up having some comments or something take place, and I'll end up writing a blog on Substack in order to sort of supplement the record. So if you're interested in reading that, I invite you to come over to Substack. It's absolutely free to join. You can join on a paid tier if you'd like to, but that's only for people who want to support the channel monetarily. If you do want to support the channel monetarily, but you don't want to go to Substack, I'll leave my Venmo and PayPal links both here on the screen as well as in the description. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment on the video. Check out some of the other videos on the channel and leave a comment on there as well. Until I see you again, take care. Stay the fuck out of Senatobia, Mississippi. Always film your interactions with the police and keep your evidence to yourself.